Hey y'all, this is AL Thick Madame, and this is the recap review for Power Book 2, Ghost. So on this episode, it starts out showing Kane and some low-level goons running up into a church to rob it. The pastor and this one person, I don't know if he's a deacon and or trustee, but they were both in the back counting up the money that they had collected in all these different collection plates. And so they come up in there and they start getting all the money out of the collection plates. One of the people who was a part of the crew has some kind of very distinctive tattoo. I don't know if it had anything to do with the area he was from, the gang he was in, or it was just something that only is specific to that one person. And old boy recognized who he was from that, but it just is what it is as far as that is concerned. Maybe that might have something to do with something that we're going to see later on. But yeah, he saw that tattoo and they made a point to show us that he saw the tattoo. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to keep that in my memory bank just in case something come up later on. So anyway, Kane knew about an actual safe that was at the church, and he had the pastor to open that up and was stealing the money out of there too. It kind of started going sideways and shots were fired. I don't think anybody was hurt outside of one of the goons that Kane ended up shooting a little bit because he was just being ignorant. I'm just like, y'all dumb. So anyway, y'all, at the school, at college, Tariq is in class and everybody is anxiously awaiting to see who the top 5 finalists are for the Canonical Studies Fellowship. And y'all already know what that means for Tariq. So anyway, before they can announce who the winners are, or the finalists, I should say, some guy came in the room screaming, talking about it's sex week, and he threw not tampons, y'all, excuse me. He threw condoms all over the place. And so, you know, it's a tradition, and it's just a tradition that has never gone away, where this is the week where they are open to people doing what they're going to do. They have all kinds of seminars about sex, and they encourage them to, you know, be open and do what they're going to do, but be safe about it. And they actually, you know, have like really detailed seminars, which we're going to find out in a minute. But anyway, so they ended up announcing who the finalists are. Tariq was not one of them. Old girl Lauren, she was one of them. And so she looked over at Tariq and was like, I'm sorry. You could tell how upset he was. So after class was over with, Professor Milgram rolled up on him and tried to like kind of like smooth it over and was like, I know you were really looking forward to getting this and whatever. And I'm just like, girl, he ain't trying to hit it. And so Jabari sees her doing this and he went on inside of the Canonical Studies office and went on by his business. So anyway, Tariq gets into his room and he is trying to talk to Braden, and Braden is in the middle of having sex. Well, he just had sex, or performed some sexual acts, I should say, on Riley. And so he was like, man, what you got her doing up here? What you got her in here for? I already told you not to bring her back in no more. So he was like, man, I know, but, you know, it's sex week. You know, I had to get it in. And so y'all know Tariq ain't here for this, because every time he look up, that heifer in the room doing the most. So he already done told him, don't bring her up in here no more. Before Tariq came in there, she tried to question him about what he really was doing that day when he disappeared. And so he is sticking with the story of he was just babysitting his brother because his brother was drunk, and that's what was going on that day. Basically playing a wingman to a drunk brother. We already know that's a lie. So anyway, Tariq was tired of his spirit, and he was just like, this don't even make no sense. Y'all up in here looking like 2 chicken cutlets under the cover. I was dying. I was like, what is wrong with him? Who just says this stuff? But anyway, y'all know he in his feelings because he didn't get that canonical, you know, a chance at the Canonical Studies Fellowship, because he's not even in the top 5 at this point. So I feel like what's going to happen is somebody going to drop out, whether it's Lauren. Lauren might drop out, because y'all know she has a whole lot of privilege behind her, and she really don't need all of this. It just looks great on the resume and all that good stuff. So she might, you know, allow him to get that spot and kind of help him along the way, or somebody might drop out, who's not her, but I'm really thinking it's going to be something like Lauren dropping out, whatever. So anyway, later on, Jabari then rolled up on Professor Milgram and was like, yeah, what was that earlier today with Tariq? And she was like, what are you talking about? You know, I'm his advisor, so it's private. And so he was like, yeah, you're one to talk about privacy. Anyway, he gonna offer to help her with something that she had to turn in. She has some kind of project that she was working on, and it has to be turned in like by like tomorrow or something like that. And so he was like, oh, well, I can help you with that. Y'all already know his help comes with strings attached. It's like, why? And I feel like she saw through that and was like, oh, okay, then that's cool. And she politely handed everything over to him for him to complete on his own. And he was kind of looking like, and so she looked up at him like, oh, okay, thank you, and went on back to what she was doing. I'm like, yes, girl, please keep your willpower, because you were setting it off the last time. And I understand Jabari fine, but you got to stop, because you're a sex addict, girl. But anyway, Tariq went to drop off the paper to the cousin. I don't know why I can't think of his name right now. The cousin who played basketball at the school. And he was looking at him like trying to figure out where he's been, because he was supposed to meet him at the class. He was like, I'm sorry about that, man. You know, it's sex week and I had to get it in. And so he was like, man, I got a lot of stuff I got to do. So, I mean, I understand all that, but I'm busy too. So he was like, all right, man, I get it. So I'm just like, you don't do nothing but have sex and play basketball. You could have met that boy to get that paper, because he's literally doing all your work for you. But anyway, so he turns to leave, and Sterling's husband had rolled up. So Tariq looking like, here we go. And he's trying to figure out what's going on, because he's looking at the app and orders are backed up. And he trying to figure out, like, what, all right, now what's going on here? And so he was like, man, I got some stuff going on. Don't worry about all that. Why you worry about the app? He was like, I mean, well, you know, my husband can be, you know, kind of, and I was just like, you're really trying to blackmail him a little bit. And it's like, it is what it is. Calm down. So anyway, he was like, don't worry about that. I got that handled. So anyway, what else happened? Because I'm trying to think of what I've, you know, because I've actually had to record this several times. The most popped off. Let me hold on for a little while. Okay, y'all, sorry about that. So anyway, Davis pulled up on Saxe. And Saxe is kind of surprised to see him. And he was like, I mean, you know, I haven't been able to get in contact with you, so I figured I'd just pop up. So they were discussing kind of like the future case that's going to happen and how it's going to go. And, you know, Davis is trying to figure out how they're going to pull any of this off, because they ain't got nobody really willing to take the stand. And, you know, they're going over people. They're wondering about Tommy's mama. They want to know about Proctor's daughter. Like a whole lot of people who have connections, but at the same time, they might be somewhat of a liability. So then Saxe was like, I got somebody in mind. Y'all, they done dug Paz up out of nowhere. Y'all know Paz is Angela's sister. Paz was tired, and she was just like, Saxe, I already told you that part of my life is gone. I'm done, whatever. So he was like, I mean, it is what it is. I hear what you're saying, but you can either just do it because I'm asking you right now, or I can actually get a subpoena printed up and sent to you so that you have to get on the stand. And she's just like, I don't know anything. Tasha never told me anything. And he was like, well, that's all you got to do. That's all you got to say when you get on the stand. Monet is in her feelings because they have a drop in like 2 days. Kane ain't been seen for 3, and he's normally the front man, the person who everybody know and they see, and they know that he is the one who, you know, handles all this. So Drew and Diana are kind of trying to assure her that it'll be all right. And so she was like, look, it's all right. I don't need your brother. Drew, you just gonna come with me and help me handle this situation. It just is what it is. You'll help me handle the re-up. Y'all, she done went off and she called her side piece. And he over here trying to be all sexy on the phone. She don't want to hear that. She was like, have you heard from Kane? Has he talked to you? And so he was like, no. Then she ended up calling the baby, you know, she called the baby daddy, husband, or whatever, and wanted to know, did he show up because he figured that that's what he was going to do after everything popped off. And he was like, yeah, he came by. And she was like, well, whatever you said to him, he ain't been back in 3 days. I'm worried, whatever, whatever. And so he was like, well, I'm sure he'll be back. I just told him that he needs to respect you. And I reminded him of what his responsibilities are. That's all that happened. So he should come back. Kane, Diana felt like she knew where Kane was. So she told Drew, I think I know where he is. And I just be like, they be killing me. Like, she be knowing everybody at. I'm like, why? How you know where everybody at? Like, girl, no. So anyway, she went to some heifer's house that Kane be laid up with. And so the girl got in her feelings, and it's like, what is going on? What is the animosity about? And so the girl was lying to us. Some Kane went at the house. So she starts yelling out for Kane. Kane come down the steps. And so the girl going about her business. So she talking to Kane, telling him that the re-up is about to happen. And so he is, you know, kind of like, oh, well, she needs me to come back. Oh, she want me to come back. I'm welcome back in the fold. And so she was just like, look, this can be your first step of making sure that you get back into it if you show up. So he was like, I will show up for the re-up. Just don't tell Mom where I'm at. And so she was like, okay, I got you. So they hugged, and that was the end of that. So Tariq had a somewhat stern talking to Brayden about his sexcapades and, you know, having Riley around all the time. And so Brayden tried to stand his ground, and he didn't want to hear that. He was like, you need to stop bringing your homeless girlfriend around. She be up in here more than she be in class. Like, does she ever even go to class? And so he was like, well, everybody is not overzealous like you are. And a lot of us are actually here to have fun in college and all this other stuff. First, second, and third of all, his family comes from money, and he has money, and he has access to money. Why can't he just get a room? I would not want to be in a situation like that where I would have to be like, let me put a sock on the door because my roommate might be here and I have money. If I have money, I'm going off campus to get a room. Like, this ain't making no sense to me. All that money and all that pull that his family has, it ain't making no sense for him to just be up in the dorm room having sex with her all day, every day. I ain't understanding that. But anyway, he was talking to him, and y'all already know that Tariq ain't here for it. Y'all, Monique is trying to get information out of Drew, want to know if he's talked to Kane. And he was like, Mom, I ain't talked to him. So Diana come in. I'm just like, girl, the way Diana enters the room when she knows information, it's like your mama still not gonna treat you the way you think she gonna treat you because you feeding her all this information, but go off though. Anyway, she come into my some, look, Kane gonna be at the meet. I know where he is. Don't worry about all that. Just know he gonna be at the meet. And so, of course, Monet like, you bold. How you gonna sit up here and say all that? And so she was like, he gotta have somebody he could trust up in this house. And just in general. Because he feel like he can't trust Daddy and he can't trust you. So who else is left but me? So she was like, you got what you need, right? You got the information you need, right? Because y'all know Monet is all about, as long as I got the information I need, I don't really care about the rest. All right, then keep that same energy, y'all. So anyway, y'all, again, we have not seen this show in so long that it slipped my mind that Zeke, that's his name, I couldn't even think of it for nothing. I just could not think of that boy's name. Zeke been screwing Professor Milgram. They're on their third time screwing for that day, I guess, or that time of the day, because this is sex week and they already have been doing the most anyway. And again, y'all know she's a sex addict, so it's like, girl, you doing the most in your life. He is so sprung over her that he ain't been dealing with nobody else. He over here talking about, I think I want to introduce you to my aunt, Monet, of all people. I'm like, sir, if you don't get it. Anyway, and so she had to remind him that she's a professor, he's a baller and a student, and that would not be a good look. And so he was like, well, I mean, I don't want to go to that party. I don't want to be around them girls that are my age because they ain't got nothing to talk about. And I mean, I get all that, but sir, you got to understand and play a role. But anyway, I was just like, boy, if you don't go and sit down, talking about introducing her to your auntie, stop. Y'all know that Professor Milgram was screwing Zeke at her place, right? So they had been taking showers separately, at least they were this day. And so she was like, look, I'm done. And so he was like, well, I could have been done too if we had taken a shower together. She was like, yeah, we would have still been in there. So she, you know, told him that it was freed up and he can go and take a shower. It was a knock or a doorbell that happened. And so she was like, don't worry, it's just the food. Went to the door. It's Jabari at the door with food from a place that used to be their place. And she was just like, what are you doing here? Like, I already told you that we ain't going down this road no more. He's adamant about like, well, I mean, this is what we do. This is our thing. We, you know, argue and we make up and this is just what we do. So she was like, you need to just leave. And before he could leave, he looks over at her TV. He's scoping out the whole place. He look over at the TV and see Sports Center on. So she was like, really? He was just like, really? This is what you do? What you do? You got it on Sports Center? You don't, you catching up on basketball and stuff now? Like, what? You into that now? Like, no. And he also sees the condoms sprawn about. So he already know what's up. And he heard the water cut on in the bathroom. So he already knows somebody in the house as we speak. So he and his feelings, he done went on back to the car. And because he had brought the assignment that she was supposed to complete, the task that she was doing that was for the students. And he just sat up there and he went through the stack, found Tariq's name and ripped it up. So we later find out that what he was working on was something that was for her class. And it's supposed to have all of her students' names on it. And on the back of the card is a secret. Right now, I don't know what the secret is, but people have to pair up and then the other person has to guess what's on the back of their cards. You will get disqualified if you just tell them what it is and all this other stuff. And y'all already know that Lauren and Tariq ended up linking up being partners with one another. So she looking at him, you know, after class, and she like, look, I'm gonna need for you to just go ahead and tell me what's on your what's your secret, because you know I need to go ahead and do what I got to do. You're no longer in the running for this fellowship, so you might as well just tell me. And he was like, nah, I still need an A in this class, so won't you tell me what's on the back of yours? So they're going back and forth, and they start playfully fighting and keeping their cards and stuff away from one another when her boyfriend walks in. And so he's pulling out his phone and taking pictures of them, and he was like, I just wanted to see how foolish you look. I just want you to see how you look. And so he looking at him like, don't you go to school in Washington, D.C.? Why are you here? Oh my gosh. They went back and forth a little bit. And so he went on ahead and excused himself. And then Lauren told her boyfriend that they don't have a future together anymore and that is over. And he looks like he is devastated. And I'm like, oh well. Well, Tariq texted Brayden and told him that he needed to link up with him, need to meet up with him. And he was like, all right. So, well, Brayden, at this point, right now, Brayden is telling Tariq that he's on his way. And he was like, bet. So he's looking and he's kind of tracking Riley. And he sees Riley and he follows her to a courtroom where he actually finds out that Saxe is her uncle and representing her, and he's done. So he has now devised a plan where he gonna meet up with Brayden and tell him that Riley hit on him, which did not work out well at all. And he was like, I thought we were boys. You over here lying to me and all this other stuff. So yeah, I'm just like, bruh. Jabari, after Brayden had stormed out of the room, ended up texting Tariq and told him that they, you know, he wanted to meet up with him in the morning. So I'm like, okay. And then I realized and remembered basically that y'all know that last season he sat up there and took all that information that Tariq did and turned it into his book. Meaning he plagiarized and completely stole all of the credit from him and has created a whole book off of it. He trifling. Y'all, Jabari is so trifling when it comes to this book. So he done sat up here and he done summoned this boy to his office talking about, so I heard the Knicks won. Yeah, and he looking like, that's why you called me into the office? He over here thinking that he the one who was sleep with Professor Milgram. And I'm like, you're dumb. You're dumb. But anyway, then he told him that he knows that he wanted to be a part of that canonical studies situation and that he gonna give him extra credit to go towards it if he writes some kind of personal paper on, you know, relationships and power relationships or something like that. And he got to go deep. And I'm like, you're on chapter 6 of something that you never even wrote. That's a book. And you want him to basically help to finish a book that's, again, not yours. I'm just so sick and tired of Jabari. Like, it's like, you're trifling. Go somewhere and sit down. At this point, if you don't have that inspiration anymore and you no longer can write, you might need to give it up or go to one of those camps where people can actually free their minds and allow the thought process to happen for them. If not, just get on. Go somewhere and sit down. You have lived out your glory days. It's over now. Bye. Everybody tired. Y'all, they're at the little hearing, right? And they called Paz to the stand. And of course, Tasha didn't know that she was going to be there. And so Davis is trying to reassure her that Paz is no threat. Well, some things start coming out. And I'm sorry, in real life, what was happening as far as the questioning that eventually started to happen between Paz and Saxe, it really does come off as if he was leading her, as if he was leading the witness. Nobody ever said anything in reference to that. I'm like, ain't nobody gonna say, you're out of order, you're leading the witness. Everybody was just sitting there, just letting it happen. I'm like, really? So yeah, Davis tired because Tasha's like, what in the world's going on here or whatever? And he was like, look, he don't know who he messing with. So we gonna see how Davis retaliates. Kane got picked up, so they're about to be looking a little bit crazy unless Tariq actually shows up to help them out, because Diana has texted him after he texted her in the same moment that she has been trying to constantly, frequently, frantically get in contact with her brother, who is not answering his phone. She asked him if he can meet her at the bar because he just texted her, wanting to know if she heard anything about the product. They're in court and Davis is doing his thing and he has turned this all the way around, and the person who was working alongside Saxe is getting real tired. Like it is really heating up, and Paz is looking like an unreliable witness because y'all know she owns a nail salon now, and it's all because Ghost's estate actually paid out money to her or whatever. So y'all, it's getting really, really good. That's why this is so long today. I'm sorry, but the most is happening with each and every scene. Kane was given a chance to talk to somebody on the phone, and he called everybody he thought he could call. Nobody answered their phones, and he ended up calling the one person we all probably would have never thought he'd call. He called Ramirez, who is the side piece to Monet, and he ended up having an alibi for him. And so when he got out, he chased Ramirez down and thanked him for it and was like, you know, I appreciate you. Ramirez was not trying to hear it. He already told Monet that she needs to get him in line or that he gonna do it for her. So he done went off on Kane, told us, you need to get in line. You need to get in line. And so then Kane went off. He was like, man, F Monet. Monet over here trying to change up the program and she got all this stuff going on. And so he ended up dropping a dime on Tariq and what, you know, what's going on as far as how they moving product and the way they doing things. And so he ended up bringing him to the house after everything went down. So what happened was he was supposed to be at the meet. The meet went sideways. Old boy who brought the stuff said that he had no communication to say, okay, only give them half of the Coke. She told him, well, I'm telling you that I'm only doing half the Coke. I only got the money for what I'm telling you that I'm getting. And he tried to pull a knife out on her. He tried to cut her with a box cutter, and they got into it. And then she ended up having to kill that boy. So Tariq was there. He actually did show up, and he had a little moment with Diana downstairs, and they heard the ruckus. And that's kind of what happened in order for the distraction to happen for her to be able to get her gun and shoot that boy. So Drew and Tariq ended up disposing of his body, well, setting it up really, to make it look like somebody set him up and shot him through a windshield and all this other stuff. And it's a mess. Ramirez overheard, since he already was told this information by Kane about what's going on, when he dropped him off at the house, Monet was like, where you been? All this other stuff talking. And he was like, well, I can handle the situation, because Diana was like, where have you been? Everything went sideways. And so he was like, well, I'll handle him. And so she was like, I already got it handled. And so he was like, Drew can't handle none of this stuff by himself. He was like, Tariq was there. So you know that Kane ain't trying to hear nothing about Tariq being tied up in a family. And then, of course, when Ramirez heard Tariq's name, since he has already brought up Tariq whenever he was talking about the business, all this other stuff. So it's kind of like, okay, I'm hearing this. Kane wasn't lying. Okay, cool. And I'm just like, dang, you over here about to get caught up. You in your feelings for no reason. Like, Kane need to go somewhere and sit down. I'm so tired. Y'all, anyway, Professor Milgram ended up summoning Jabari. Jabari came to the office, and so he was like, oh, now you want to talk. And so she told him to sit down. They sat down, and they were talking, and he was like, she, had the card in her hand that, this is what happened initially. What happened was she called everybody in one by one so that they could say what they thought the secret was that was on the back of everybody's card. So when it got to Tariq's situation, Lauren came in with the card, and she was like, look, I'm just going to be honest with you. I think that Tariq made this whole thing up or whatever. And so, like I told y'all earlier, it said that a professor at Stansfield is sleeping with a student. And so she sees it. She already know, okay, this is some foolishness that Jabari done cooked up. So that's why she ended up calling him in. She told her that she was going to get full credit for what she did, despite all of that happened. And, she didn't say, oh, well, no, that was me or none of that. Of course she didn't give that away. But yeah, she called Jabari in. And so she was like, ultimately, you gave yourself away, because I know you sleeping with that heifer, that student aide, the heifer that's in the master's program. And y'all know that night when she was, she was in the office, and she declined his offer, and that girl rolled up, and they were screwing next door. And I'm just like, you just trifling. Jabari's so trifling. So anyway, she was like, I mean, in all honesty, I could turn this in because it's in your handwriting. It's in his handwriting, so she could turn it in, and he basically is incriminating himself. And so I'm like, sir, you are just on the losing team all around. Please go somewhere and sit down. Like, please stop. Like, he been getting on my nerves, like, so bad. So anyway, the end of the episode showed Tasha and Paz having a moment where they were on the phones. Of course, Tasha's back in jail. And she was like, I didn't know that that's what was going to happen. So she was like, I did not kill Jamie. And they had a moment, and she was like, I could have easily been on the other side. You know what I'm saying? Because Paz did go to kill James, and she was like, I didn't kill James. And so she was, she was like, but you know who did. And so, they had a moment. It was pretty cool. It is what it is. So anyway, y'all, hopefully y'all enjoyed this recap review. Y'all have a good one. I will try to come back a little bit later on. Bye.